So here we are, here and now, in a pretty wild time, and a time that even those of us with lots of white hair have never seen before, in terms of all of the cultural conflict, all of the society advance, the the speed technology that's moving things so quickly and creates a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. And to the extent that it seems it's sort of the back, it's like the noise, lives, and being able to come together to practice is so important. And when you're alone practicing, remember that somewhere in the world there are probably thousands of other people practicing right when you are, whether they're chanting or doing Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga or whatever particular practices they're doing. People are looking to understand more deeply the nature of what it is to be human, and the difficulties and challenges we face, some of which we've always faced, some of which are, as we know, they're just built in. There is suffering, there is confusion, there is misunderstanding or lack of understanding. And some of which is certainly heightened in this time, and it's heightened in this time. Dan mentioned earlier that Living Earth is an organization that I am associated with, and the Earth is in trouble. And so all of these pressures that humans have always faced, conflicts, ignorance, all of the defilements or all of the problems, are now happening with this backdrop of, do we have time? Do we have time? Do we have time to save the planet? Do we have time to save the best of human culture, which is included in our arts and our education and our knowledge and our wisdom and our opportunities for gathering and for crossing borders and learning and growing? Patience sometimes seems like a pretty slim commodity these days because change is happening so rapidly and so many people are directly affected. So coming together, for refuge, coming together for community and shared practice, and knowing that whatever our personal differences might be, we share the same value of compassion, of kindness, of experiencing the joy in the world, because there is so much joy and so much beauty that human experience offers us. And we have to also come together and recognize stability within all that. And the stability or equanimity aren't based on denial. They're based on balance, on bringing all of those threads together. So if on the Bodhisattva path, which certainly is close to my heart and the teachers who I've been guided by, which include Roshi Joan Halifax, Joanna Macy, as Dan mentioned, Franco Staszewski, Sharon Salzberg, many others, Ram Dass, Every one of those teachers I met through Ram Dass. So that says something somehow about Ram Dass's position in my heart, that he led me and introduced me to these other wonderful teachers. Being of service is a strong part of the lineage of all of those teachers. And being of service takes a lot of forms. And we each have to find our own meaning for what that is. Being of service can be passing the salt jar to someone. It can also be more specific ways of standing up against causes of suffering, trying to alleviate suffering, trying to be more inclusive, to broaden our hearts, because if we don't have that spaciousness, what is our practice? Is it a narrow, tight practice that is for these but not for those? Or I don't think so. Our practice is about letting go of all the distinctions that create the illusion of separation. And when we're able to do that, then we can find, because we live in these bodies and we live in these minds and these incarnations and these social conditions that we inhabit. So where is my place? Where each of us can ask this, and probably do all the time. What's my responsibility? What is my commitment? What are my skills? What are my talents? What do I have to offer? And that's a huge, I listened this morning to the commencement speech that was given just recently, I don't know if in the past week at Harvard, which I don't know if anyone else heard that speech. It was just a wonderful ceremony, the whole event. But Dr. Abraham Verghese was the commencement speaker. And he's an author and as well as a physician, and highly regarded for the way he brings compassion to his practice and recognizes that when, as he spoke to the students and all of the people assembled, lots of people assembled at Harvard, to these graduates, we don't just do this for ourselves. We've been given a gift by attending this institution. And now we commence to put that gift to use for the greater good. And I think that that's also what we're called on to do. It was like this, he's not a Buddhist as far as I know. I don't know necessarily much about his background. He did say he's not Catholic, although he was proud of the new priest or pope, I mean. But how do we just come to sit so that we can rest? Which is not a bad point, coming together and resting and feeling safe and feeling heard and feeling known and appreciated. Those are wonderful aspects of Sangha and of community. But if we consider the perspective interdependence and interdependent co-arising, that this is like this because that is like that. And if that isn't like that, then this isn't like this. And we recognize then that we have an obligation, perhaps beyond the benefits of Sangha and of practice, just for ourselves. But if I'm connected to every person who's homeless on the street, everyone who's ODing from fentanyl on the street, every immigrant who's being snatched off the street and disappeared. If I'm interdependent with them and with the circumstances that have brought them to their position, what is my heart's response? And do I have a moral response as moral human beings? Whatever those basic values are and however they look in each of our lives, generosity, compassion, the gamut. Bishop, there went that name, who has the Moral Mondays, tremendous. He was a student of Dr. Tremendous force in the movement for justice right now. Saying this in our country, we're experiencing, and it's not only our country, it's the world is in incredibly unstable shape in terms of climate, in terms of justice, in terms of peace, in terms of health and well-being. And what is, we have the opportunity to look at what is my part in that? And what does my practice mean? Is my practice simply refuge? Which sometimes, yes, that's true. Sometimes what we need most is refuge. But when we are feeling stronger, how do we integrate our practice into our responsibility for those around us, those friends we've never met, for the position and the conditions in the world? And I'm asking, these are rhetorical questions. I'm not saying this is how you do it. This is the solution, because that has to arise from every single one of us. Every single one of us has some role to play. I have a friend who is a grocery clerk at New Seasons. And she said to me one day, and wasn't boasting or anything, but she said, people have no idea the amount of emotional labor that grocery clerks offer as they're checking out your groceries. Every person, how's your day? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Well, imagine how it was for them during COVID, right? Whoa. Everyone who came in was in a crisis of one degree in one form or another. So her service was simply being there and doing her job. It wasn't defined as part of her job. She wasn't paid for doing that work. That was her way of being of service. So each of us in our daily routines, whether we're caring for a relative or helping a neighbor or any of the myriad ways in which human beings can be wonderful to one another. We do a lot of those automatically. We do a lot of those spontaneously. But because the conditions of our culture are deteriorating so rapidly, maybe we need to find out, have a special agenda, but to find out, how do we engage? Where do we engage? Are we most concerned about hunger? Are we most concerned about peace? Are we most concerned about healthcare? Or it's endless. The sources of suffering and distress right now. And so we can look and say, how do we do that? And we can say that to each other as friends. Oh, you want to do that? I want to do that too. Let's do that. We can do that as groups, or we can just do them by ourselves. We can take simple steps when we can. And it seems to me that that is bringing our practice to the marketplace is bringing and using all of that as Ram Dass said, as grist for the mill, as what we're encountering that stirs things up for us, or that distress us, or that overwhelm us, or anger us. We can bring much, we have a whole really rich field to play in, a field of practice. And that seems to me to be also a significant part of growing into who we really can be and what our loving kindness can be, not just to the people we love and care about close to us. How can we be well-wishing for everyone we encounter? How can we be well-wishing for those who we feel are engaging in really harmful acts? How do we not cast anyone out? That's our day-to-day practice. That's our here and now practice. When we're on the bus, when we're stuck in traffic, when we're arguing with our spouse, when we're, whatever it is we're doing, is how do we bring that consciousness? Your example was beautiful. How do we, now I'm picking up, now I'm carrying across, now I'm releasing, that kind of mindful attention to how we interact in the world in our daily lives becomes, I think, a gift, not only for ourselves, but a gift that this collective practice gives to the world. Because there's a lot of suffering, and there's a lot of fear. And I think it's important that we recognize that we recognize it along with the joy, along with the beauty, along with telling jokes while we're pulling weeds. And anyone is welcome to come and pull weeds at my house. I will tell jokes too. But we can bring this more and more into who we are, not just who we are when we happen to walk through the door on a Sunday morning or a Tuesday evening or, whatever, at a specific time and place. I think probably every tradition is familiar with those who come to temple on Saturday and are not nice people the rest of the week, or those who go to church on Sunday and are selfish, unpleasant human beings the rest of the week. This holiness of being in a space. And sometimes that's the best we can do. Sometimes we're overwhelmed, we're tired, we feel stressed, and we forget to be that way to the driver in front of us or the person waiting to cross the crosswalk. Or, it's just so easy to forget. So coming together, we help each other remember. But hopefully, when we remember, we take that out. And that reminds me of something that Joan Halifax Roshi said. She and Ram Dass were great friends, and they spoke different languages in a certain sense in their practice and in their teachings, but they were great friends. And Ram Dass's sort of a core saying of his guru, his teacher, was love, serve, and remember God. God in the most spacious way you might choose to think of God. Roshi just couldn't go there. She said, love, serve, and remember who you really are. And one day, Ram Dass also spoke a lot about the soul. He used the word soul, which isn't a word I'm particularly comfortable with, and she certainly wasn't comfortable with. And one day I was at Upaya for a workshop at her center there. And she said, you know, if you look at someone in their eyes, you see their soul. Don't tell Ram Dass I said that. Just whatever that is, whatever that, you know, the language is such a funny thing, but however we make these deep connections with our own humanity and with someone else's humanity or someone else's beingness, whether it's a dog or a squirrel or a snake or whatever. Love, serve, and remember who you really are. I like that a lot. So